COVID-19 has had several impacts on the Human Resources Department. I can tell you of three major ones. First, it impacted how we hire applicants. Second, we've had a lot of legislation that's come out about COVID-19 and that affects our employees. And then third, we've had legislation that affects unemployment and that affects how we go about doing our hiring. So let's talk about the applicant pool and how we get people into the city and how we onboard them. So I will tell you that prior to COVID, we would invite people into our testing labs. They would come in, they would be able to take their tests, whether it be dispatch tests, accounts payable, billing, you name it. They would come to the city and they would take their tests. Well, COVID obviously created a burden. So what we did was we started proctor examining a lot of the folks that were coming in to do their applications. We would email out the application for the test. They would complete all that, then they would do the actual test, and then we would get their results pretty quickly, and then we can continue the onboarding without them actually having to physically come into the HR department. Something else that happened on April 1st, the United States government passed the Families First Coronavirus Act and Relief Act, and that act came with a lot of different stipulations. And two of the big parts of that act are the Employee Paid Sick Leave, and the other big one was what they call the Extended Family Medical Leave Act. And both of those impact our employees because if they were affected by COVID, they would have opportunities to be out of work for 80 hours or up to 10 weeks sometimes based on their situation. So with that came a lot of different challenges. We had a lot of employees that would call and ask questions about these two acts because initially it was pretty broad what the government said when they were telling us about this thing and when they first put it out. But as time went on, they started putting out more regulations. We saw that it was designed just for those employees that were affected by COVID-19. The other thing is when we talk about our employees, we have to talk about their significant others and their families. And a lot of our employees were impacted by unemployment due to COVID-19. The casinos were laying off, several big businesses were laying people off, and their family members would go and apply for unemployment. Well, when they go through the process of applying for unemployment, their spouse or their significant other wouldn't know where else to turn. They would call the Human Resources Department for the city that they work for, and we were assisting as best we could. We were assisting our employees and their families when it came to just getting the initial steps put in place so that they could claim unemployment and they didn't find their family in a sticky situation because of one of their parents being out of work. So COVID's done a lot. Those are just three big ones that really stand out to me right now. But between reopening the city, making sure all of our employees were healthy, we were super, super fortunate this time. And what I mean by that was we were fortunate in terms of we only had one employee that was a confirmed case. Those first couple weeks were kind of hairy because, you had a runny nose and people were screaming that that person potentially is infected with COVID. So we only had one confirmed case here in the city. We assisted that employee through that, and we learned a lot from that lesson. So, like I said, COVID did do a lot for HR, but we learned many lessons, and we're already seeing those lessons starting to affect the way we do things from here on out.